Industry game.
Swan Sit, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So, I always break it down from like the beginning of your career, and my whole
It's a long time ago.
so my whole objective with the show is to just tell stories of people's journey from like how they got from where they were to where they are today.
Yeah.
And obviously, you've got an impressive story based on what I know. So I just want you to do a little high level overview, introduction, who you are, and then I got a bunch of questions to ask you.
Happy to walk through my journey. It's a long one.
Yeah.
It's winding. A lot of things don't make sense, but if you can connect the narrative, they do.
Yeah.
I think it's better to start with what I wanted to be when I grew up, when I was little. I came to the US when I was 6, and I came from Hong Kong.
Okay.
And it's wet markets, people who live paycheck to paycheck. You kind of go down to the market, buy what you can afford that day, cook it for dinner. It's awesome. It's fresh. It's what we do with farmers markets now, but it's also what, people who are in developing countries have to do. So when I got to the US, like it's the land of everything big, McDonald's, Nike, Disney. I'd never seen a big box supermarket. So there's now endless aisles of all the treats you could buy, cereals, candies, etc. And then at checkout, there's a barcode scanner. I had never seen this. This was the early 80s. I'd never seen a barcode scanner. It was like magic. And I was like, wow, like this thing, you just pass a product over it, and all of a sudden it flashes up the product and the price. It was magic.
And how old were you at this time?
I was 6.
Okay.
And I said to my parents, who are typical Asian tiger parents, the only options are doctor or lawyer, that when I grew up, I wanted to be a supermarket checkout girl. And they were devastated. It was not an acceptable answer. And luckily, I kind of figured out a career today. But as I think about the journey, and I'll kind of walk through the steps, it was really about retail, technology, brands, and how technology changes how we work, live, and play, which is actually what I do. So there maybe is something to be said that when we ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? No one has any idea. I don't have any idea now, but the things we love, I think, start innately. So I finished college in 2000. It was the dot-com boom. And I originally had thought about going to Gap in San Francisco or Goldman Asset Management.
Hold on. And before that, I want to go. So you moved to the States at 8. Is that what you're saying?
6.
So you moved here when you were 6.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to college.
Yep.
So where did you study undergrad?
Harvard.
So
again, Asian tiger parents, thank God I got in.
Okay. And what drew you to that? Was that like always your North Star growing up? Like, I want to go to Harvard?
It's my parents' North Star.
Really?
And, I saw this funny meme where it's like therapy in 60 seconds. They're like, your parents messed you up, but they did the best they could.
Yeah.
Right? And that's all of us.
Put you on the right direction.
Right.
Though.
And some people respond really well to certain types of parenting and some people don't. My parents were high pressure. A- is an Asian F. I was in school 12 months out of the year. That was my life. I thrived because I'm clever, but inherently a little lazy. So I needed them to push me. Whereas my brother, who is the most patient and kind and wholehearted person I know, he doesn't respond well to that type of pressure. When it's too much pressure, combined with an older sister, 6 years older, who had pretty big shoes that he had to fill, he was afraid of failure.
So you had a competitive household?
A little bit, but it was competitive in the sense that my parents pushed me. My brother, he would just, he's a love bug. He likes playing and being creative. And funny enough, he's actually in tech now, which is fairly, linear in its kind of thinking as well. But we just responded differently to the pressures of my parents. And I would never blame it. I would not be here if they had not pressured me. I wouldn't have been an A student. I probably would have been a B student. I did well enough to show up, test well, but not be driven. Because I think also at that time, education was so much about rote memorization. And it wasn't that interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
Right?
It's like show up to the test, memorize it for the test, pass the test, and then you go on to the next test.
Yeah, you study on how to take tests.
Yeah.
Now, that's not true of everyone. I had some incredible teachers along the way. I recently took my middle school teachers out for lunch a few months ago when I was in Boston. I found them on Facebook.
Oh, did you study? Did you grow up in Boston?
Yeah.
What part?
Malden when I was younger, and then Newton towards the end of high school.
No way.
So, yeah, so when you mentioned Boston,
I grew up in Weston.
Yeah.
Right next door.
So you get the Massachusetts academic kind of culture.
Yeah, it's intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the community is very academically focused. There's a lot of immigrant parents who are very academically focused. I went to Catholic school not because my parents were Catholic, but it was better than the local schools in Malden at the time, which weren't very safe.
Yeah.
So everything was academic pressure. My entire achievement, the identity and the goal in life was academic achievement, then professional achievement,
Yeah.
which is great when you need a little extra push. Terrible when you realize that that's your whole identity and you don't know who you are outside of that.
So is that how you in college you felt that? You felt like your whole identity was wrapped up in school?
Here's what's funny, and no one's ever actually asked me about this. We don't dig deep enough. I was under a super overprotective household. I didn't play outside with other kids. I didn't go to the mall. I didn't go to homecoming games, right? I went to school. I did clubs and sports, and then I went home after, did my chores, did my homework, and stayed home.
Yeah.
When I got to college, I went crazy. Now,
Yeah.
I went 20 minutes away. My family was in Newton at the time. I went to Harvard, which is in Cambridge.
Mhm.
It's a 20-minute drive. I was away from home, but not away from home.
Right.
But I never self-regulated and made decisions for myself. So I went nuts. I partied so hard my first year. I overslept a final and got an incomplete in a class. I don't think I've ever told
Right.
anyone that,
Yeah.
right? It all works out fine.
Yeah.
But when you don't teach kids how to make decisions for themselves or analyze situations, you could end up in a situation where you go 0 to 100 and they're going to go 100 until they crash.
Right.
So I did a year abroad and I reset. I was also pre-med, and in high school I could skip pre-calculus, jump into calculus and be fine.
Oh, because you could get away with it in high
Yeah,
school.
I was smart enough and clever enough. I figured it out, right? I did algebra 2 and geometry at the same time. Then I took pre-calc at MIT for a summer with like a bunch of other high school students. It wasn't even a college course. And I came back, I was like, oh, I can do calculus.
That was
Got
easy
an
for
A
you.
minus is
Yeah.
good enough because
Yeah.
high school's not that hard. You know,
Yeah.
it's a very small pond. You get to college and you think you can skip all these classes.
And you were
take
on pre-med. You were on the pre-med track.
I was pre-med, biochem.
And you were.
and my
You
first-
thought you could just go in there and wing it again.
Because it was in a small pond. I didn't have a barometer for what greatness was,
Yeah.
right? In my tiny pond, I was doing pretty well, right?
Yeah.
So you get to college and there's this massive ocean and a
Mhm.
tsunami hits you. So my first year I took Math 1, Math 2, chemistry, bio, upper level genetics, Chinese. Even though I speak Cantonese, Mandarin's a completely different language. I took the heaviest course load that you possibly could. And of course, I failed. It was awful. I think I went from being a straight A student to having a B, a C, and a couple Ds and an incomplete.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a rude awakening.
And your major, you chose the hardest path, it seems, right?
I did, but ultimately, actually, that was my decision because what I realized was, as you know, I was thinking doctor, lawyer, all these things. I really liked working with my hands and like fine motor skills. And
Yeah.
I dissected a crayfish and was able to extract its cardiovascular system in junior year of high school. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to fix living things.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, which, yes, it's with your hands, but there's so much we don't know about the brain. So it's not just fixing things like ortho, you go fix a bone, right? But brain, we're still learning as we fix.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. And then I was like, in theory, you could literally be an economics or sociology major, take pre-med requirements and still go to medical school. But I went big, thought I could do biochem,
do
and
it
it
all, yeah.
smacked me in the face.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was one of my first lessons in like humility and adaptation. People ask me a lot, what's the most important quality? And it's like, it's adaptation. You're going to fail some days. Some days will feel great. Some days will feel awful. You'll win a lot. You might lose a lot. But the one thing that persists, even if you don't change, the world changes around you, you have to adapt.
Yeah.
So I did a year abroad.
Where'd you go?
London, because
Okay.
it was the easiest place. I didn't speak enough other languages
Yeah.
to go work somewhere, and I needed to work. I wasn't going to go wander for a year. I wanted to work because what I realized is the practice of biology and dissection didn't match the academics because it was back to rote memorization. I'm like, I want to dissect things. I want to run experiments. And any college, not just Harvard, year one, all you're doing is memorizing and doing the experiment the way they want you to do it.
Is it harder to get into Harvard or stay at Harvard?
Oh, I absolutely get in.
So once you're in, is it,
Yeah.
if you, whatever course load you choose, it's relatively,
I would say it's hardest to get in just statistically because everyone. So the thing about like Harvard versus some of the other schools, or I'd say a lot of Ivy Leagues, you have a lot of people throwing a Hail Mary application in, right? So the numbers, the denominator of people applying is much larger than a solid tier 2 school because that's somebody's reach school, maybe somebody's safety, but you don't have Hail Mary applications going in from all over the world to some of those schools. So the acceptance rate is the lowest, but I don't think it's a fair classification because
Yeah.
there's so many random applications that go in, right?
Mhm.
Just to see,
Yeah.
just in case. So the lottery
it might
ticket,
go through. Yeah.
right? I still do think though, like the top Ivies are harder to get into. So statistically, it's very difficult. Once you're there, I wouldn't say it's easy. I think it's hard to fail out because, like any good school, they want you to be successful. So if you have to have some growing pains of how to be
They'll
an
help you
adult and
out.
make it, yeah, they give you time to figure it out. They give you resources. They're not giving you an easy grade.
Yeah.
I got an incomplete because I overslept a final. That is my fault,
Right.
right? They're not giving you a free grade, but they'll give you a year to go reset and come back and do it better. And so the difference, I think, is like you can sit in the middle quite comfortably. It's hard to fail out because they want you to do well, but they'll give you grace and time to figure it out. But it's really hard to be an A student.
Really?
Like the difference between being a B student and A student, I would say, is 20 extra hours of work and a level of
No
brilliance.
way.
Because it is graded on a curve. There's only so many people that can be at the top. So I wouldn't say it's easy when you're there. I still really did some of my best work there, but you
Mhm.
have to be motivated and disciplined and focused.
Okay, and sorry. So you next steps. You go to London. You
Yeah.
go abroad to London. You love it over there.
Yeah, I work for a year, one stint in consulting, and one stint in just like general business because I thought I wanted. So after the first year, I took the summer and I interned at Genzyme. So I'm like, okay, maybe I won't be a neurosurgeon, but maybe I'll do biotech. And I was like, wait, this is really cool. I worked on Carticel, Epicel. I was in the lab doing stuff that they probably shouldn't have let an intern do.
Mhm.
So I came back and I was like, what if I switch to economics, but I work in biotechnology? So I'm still around the things I love, but I'm not doing
Mhm.
the MD route, which I mean, I didn't even know if I wanted to be a doctor after I learned about 4 years of undergrad, all those years of med school, and then internship residency.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
it's
I'm
so
going to be
much.
40 before I can actually
Get to work.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, maybe I'll do the economic side. I was like, but I don't want to fall into the same trap where practice doesn't meet academia. So
Mhm.
why don't I go work in business for the year? If I like it, I'll come back, switch to econ. And that's kind of what got me on like the business path. London was interesting. I was much further from home. So also had a couple of,
Yeah.
weeks of adjustment, a couple of months of adjustment of waking up and going to work on time. Because if you skip a class, no one yells at you at
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Oh, at your job, they do.
Yeah.
Right? They not only yell at you, they start worrying if you got hit by a car if you don't show up for a few days. And so those things, which I don't think I've really talked about with people, really help me level set like what being an adult is. And I think that's why in some ways, like going to college is good for some people. Let's put aside all the things that are wrong with how college is set up
But
today,
the
the cost,
structure
what you
of
teach.
it, getting
Yeah.
through it.
Learning to be an adult and make decisions and have consequences and be accountable for them.
Yeah, I was talking to my friend the other day, and we were talking about like college and like, okay, what did we learn? What didn't we learn? Like, and what I took from college is like I learned how to like solve problems and figure
Yeah.
out how to get an A or get through this by doing this, this, and that.
Fully.
Whether it's memorization, having you do the evens, him do the odds, and then like I get you guys the homework. Like if you get your home half the problems and you get half the problems, I'm able to like facilitate that, and I get all the answers.
Yep.
And I just like learned the ability to like delegate and get things done. But I think that it's just like overcoming little obstacles is like what I took from it, rather than like the
100%.
actual like subject matter.
100%. I think first level is mine, showing up and,
Yeah,
having the
showing up.
consequences.
Yeah,
Once you show up, how do you maneuver it? Right? It's not like when we were in grammar or high school and our schedule's laid out for us.
yeah.
Do
The
you
bus picks you up, drops you off, and then it's
and you're in school for those 7 hours, right?
Mhm.
In college, you're picking your classes. If you're playing a sport or doing, how do you even manage your schedule? Did you bake enough transit time between your classes so you're
Yeah.
not like something as simple as that? And then to your point, I mean, it sounds like your experience in college was honestly probably more advanced than most. We're all just trying to show up. You were able to maneuver it, which is what they often do in MBA programs, right?
Yeah.
They put you in groups. They give you assignments that have to be done collaboratively, et cetera. So the fact that you started doing that earlier than most is a testament to your experience.
I think that what I realized was things that I didn't want to do, or like with the evens and odds. I always like bring up this example. I found like if like we're in the same class and we got 100 problems to do for homework, and I say I'll do 50, you do 50, and I know the 50 you're gonna give me are gonna be right, and then I go to Chris and I say, Chris, you want to do the odds? And then like I know that he's gonna do them right, and like I want to get you the correct information, and I know you want to get the correct information. So I was able to like position myself as like a broker
Yeah.
of information, where you guys are both getting what you want. I'm getting what I want, and I
Right.
don't have to do the work, but I figured out a tool to like get it done.
Yeah.
And those little things right there were like you don't care where the answers come from. You just want your 50 and I want my 50.
Right.
And those little types of like tools I really leaned into because I struggled in different things. And I was like, I need to figure out a way to like, I got to get good grades because I'm not going home. Like, we got to keep the show on the road.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, like overcoming little things like that and figuring out what works for you.
It's teaching you how to live life,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think a lot of people ask, should I not go to college anymore? And I'm like, it depends. It's like it's so
It's
situational.
so
What
nuanced.
college? What are
Yeah.
you
You
trying to
can't,
get out of it? I do think college was really pivotal for me in terms of opening doors and teaching me how to live as an adult. I do think there's a lot of things wrong with college. It's expensive. It's not teaching the right skills. I think getting it more affordable, maybe condensing it to 2 years, that's actually teaching on the job skills is helpful. But then there's a whole other piece of socialization, accountability, and figuring out how to get things done.
yeah.
We should give leeway and we should celebrate that.
Yeah. So, like, talking about getting things done,
Hmm.
we need to jump into your career.
Yeah.
So you do undergrad at Harvard, then
Yeah.
you go to London, and then you go Columbia for grad school.
Hmm.
And then I want you to jump into like your first big gig after that and kind of how you've been able to like take your career off from there.
I'm going to mention one thing out of undergrad only because it pertains to how I've made choices, even post MBA. Graduated in 2000. Like I said, I was thinking of things like Gap and Goldman, and it was the dot-com boom. I was like, I worked at a cyber cafe where you had to like buy a card to have minutes to go on the internet, to go on like Yahoo.
Right.
It was so early days. And I was like, wait, I know it's early. This is so janky, but this is going to change everything. The fact that I could sit at a computer terminal and email someone or search for information without going to a library and looking up the card catalog.
Hmm.
So I went into tech. I went to a company called Trilogy in Austin, Texas. I had a six-figure salary in 2000 coming out of college. It's
That's wild.
insane.
Yeah.
And then a year later, we all got laid off because the dot-com boom crashed.
Hmm.
But that was my first big decision away from what the traditional norm was. You could argue that going abroad for a year at Harvard was unusual, but that was kind of like, I didn't have a choice. I needed to reset. Like if
Yeah.
I did the second year way I did the first year, I didn't have a place at the
Hmm.
school, right? But that was the first time I made a decision based on a gut of where I think the future's going. And I still argue it paid off, even though we were laid off, because those are some of the most amazing people, best founders I still know today. And it changed the way I thought of how business could be done, because it wasn't go in, learn the way that Goldman runs and Excel. It was go figure it out. They just gave me a budget and they're like, go build a marketing campaign. I was like, well, what is that? They're like, go do it.
Yeah.
So that first choice, having panned out in that way, even if we got laid off a year later, it changed how I thought about how things should be done, rote memorization, following models, et cetera. When I went to Columbia for my MBA, I'd been in marketing for a while, right? I did marketing at Trilogy, then I was a product manager at Newell Rubbermaid, then I had an ad agency. I was a marketing specialist. Decided to get my MBA and said, let's be more well-rounded. I don't want to just know how to do marketing. I want to know how to do business and think analytically. Then I went to Bain for 3 years because I realized, back to academics versus practice, the academics of an MBA are great. I loved my time at Columbia. I had some practice where I didn't wear it today, but a class project with Ketty Maison Rouge. She works at the intersection of business and luxury. Hermes was our client, was our class project. And we created Hermes's still to this day best-selling enamel bracelet as we were students at Columbia.
Really.
So yeah, I've always loved the balance of academia and learning with the execution of practice. So when we did that, I was like, okay, that was really fun. 2 years of school, one project that came to life. I think I need to do the practice of this well-rounded business person thing. So I went to Bain for 3 years. Incredible education, frameworks, analyzing things with ambiguity, 80/20 problems. I loved it. I pretty much knew I wasn't going to be a lifer, but it
Hmm.
was a really useful 3 year stint. So now I've had a well-rounded business academic 3 years, 2 years, and then a well-rounded business practice for 3 years, being more of a business generalist.
Okay.
So in 2010, I look around and I was like, I think this internet thing is really here to stay. I saw email, but now in 2010, you're seeing lots of e-commerce. You're starting to see social take a different view from this is what an influencer is eating for breakfast. And influencers weren't even that big before. So this is what my friend's eating for breakfast, to people are starting to transact using social as reference, reviews, information, discovery. So I left Bain, which people also thought was crazy, and went to Estee Lauder to run digital. It was online strategy. They had 30 brands in 50 countries, about 135 sites. And in my 5 years there, I helped them grow to almost 500 sites and a double-digit growth e-commerce business that was wildly profitable.
Wow.
I just looked and I was like, people are watching haul videos, looking at social to discover beauty.
So you were ahead of the social curve.
Ish. I mean, I
And were
don't.
you pushing that on the team over there at the time? Were you like, we got to go this
Yeah.
way?
To give them credit, they were already doing it. I mean, Estee Lauder launched Clinique.com for e-commerce in 1997. No
Wow.
one gives them credit. They were like in the back room packing things and
Yeah.
shipping them out. It was a small e-com business for a long time, but Dennis McHenry was really brilliant in how he led the online division because he ran the P&L for all the brands, all the countries, which is unusual because you still have a brand president, you have a country head, but he ran the P&L. So we were able to put an engine behind launching e-commerce sites and pushing sales through. So I wouldn't say I was the credit to it, but what I was able to do is structure and scale it. Because you have a lot of technologists, you have a lot of brand people, but what do consultants do? They create execution plans. So they knew I didn't know beauty or digital, but they said, you know how to scale businesses.
Oh, because you were consulting prior to that.
Yeah, I was at Bain.
So,
So I didn't.
so being at Bain prior to that gave you the.
That's why they hired me.
Yeah.
100%. A friend of mine, Ross
So you
Miller,
had that background plus the marketing, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
That's why they brought me in. They said, we know how to do tech. We understand brands. We can't make it into a growth plan. There's a lot of things like what features and what technological features do you add on sites to increase conversion? How
Mhm.
much do you do of social advertising? Back then, when we were doing Facebook ads, we were getting a ROAS of 17 just by showing up.
Wait, what does that mean?
Oh, return on ad spend.
Okay.
Every dollar you spend, how much in sales do you get back? Now you're lucky if you get $1 or $2, $3
Wait, so
back.
can you wait? I want to rewind it. So can you explain that so
Yeah.
that the listeners can?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So nowadays it's all hidden. You open up Instagram, you want to place an ad, they ask you how much you want to spend and the algorithm takes care of who to get it to, et cetera. But return on ad spend, really just singular but interesting metric. For every dollar you spend on an ad, how much in revenue are you getting back?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like a good ROAS is like 2 or 3.
What was it back then? In 2000 and what year? 10?
2010 to 2015, we'd throw up an ad on Facebook and we'd get a ROAS of 17. Because
Really?
there's so little competition.
And what is it now?
2 or 3 maybe if you're
Really?
good. 1.5.
Damn.
And what's gotten even worse.
So you guys were just hammering that funnel.
Yeah. It's stuff like that we were doing. We were also doing things like, because you can't do this at scale in a store, right? And I still actually work with a lot of founders like this when they're kind of debating, what do we do in store? What do we do online? For example, Nicki Minaj was launching an album called Pink Friday, and she loves MAC. MAC's one of Lauder's, 35 brands or so. And she said, I want a hot pink lipstick. The average time to make a product from conception to take to market is 1.5 years, as fast as you can go.
Really?
Yeah.
It
Now
takes
there's-
that long?
Yeah. Think about like you draw the designs, you have to like bring it through all the different like collaborations and approvals.
1 to 2 years, huh?
Then you have to go source the product, mix the color, get it made in another country, bring it over, right? There's hacks around it. I'll kind of say that for a different conversation. But generally, even today, if you want to make, a new lipstick, a new pair of sneakers, unless you have a cheat, the general manufacturing process from design all the way to getting to market is a year and a half for most of these consumer companies.
So it's so funny because our core business is manufacturing. I work with my family and we make shelving.
Mm-hmm.
And but like we're like doing from design to like rollout from like 4 to 10 weeks.
But
ours is like not as complicated as like a makeup. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, yes and no, because makeup, there's a lot of FDA testing and things like that too. But like, suppose your shelving were going to be like a completely different 3D, like pops out of the box with hinges.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're doing a lot of testing. You have to do drop testing, environmental testing. Suppose you're using a new material.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Right. So I'm not saying like maybe just mix another color slightly differently, but a new product, yeah, think about like you have to actually test it being drop shipped and shipped across oceans, across different temperatures.
And see if it like some of that stuff will like go bad, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And suppose you're shelving then, because of the way it kind of like you don't have to assemble it with the tools, it pops open, right? Like some sort of like, I'm forgetting what they're called. Like the things like the cards you pop open. And right. And
the display is already ready to go.
Yeah. So now suppose because of this pop-up thing where it's a no tool assembly for your shelving, you now need a different exterior carton because there's no standard box that fits it. Now you have to wait for your tooler who does cardboard boxes to create a whole new box for you. Then you now have to do all those packs in a container or on a pallet and drop test that whole new thing.
Yeah. So
do you see how it gets a little
No,
longer?
I get it. And how many employees are at Estee Lauder? How big is the company?
I mean, it's like
100,000?
Last I checked, it was probably like 30 billion in revenue. It's big.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's big. Yeah, it's a big company. So
So you
I'm
take
giving
the
a little
marketing off. You're taking the marketing
right.
off. You
So
guys are doing the social.
yeah, so like here's one example. So what we did with Nicki Minaj is like we could have just mixed another color. Even that would have taken 6 months because you still got to then make sure like how it wears, etc. What we were able to do is we had 5,000 hot pink lipsticks sitting on the shelf. It was ordered and, forecasted, but they changed their minds. They were still good. I think they were only a couple months old and the shelf life is generally a few years. All we did was take that lipstick, stick a sticker, a little round sticker that says Pink Friday on the outside of the box, but you can't distribute 5,000 lipsticks across 500 stores. They'd each get a handful of them,
Right.
but you put them online, right? And now you've got tons of buzz. Everyone's in line trying to buy that one of those few thousand lipsticks. That's a special
The
edition
hype's
that Nikki.
there.
Exactly. So now
And that was a hype era. That was like the Supremes and the Babes and all
you
the
couldn't have done that in
yeah,
a store
right.
because how would you? Each store gets 3 lipsticks. You're gonna have a riot.
Right.
Right. And then maybe the store in Wichita has no Nicki Minaj fans and they're
Yeah.
just sitting on these,
Yeah.
right? So the internet not only gave us a way to push high heat products out, but the halo, the earned media value was so much bigger than the sale of those few thousand lipsticks.
The
So
hype.
those are the things we started doing early. We did paid sampling, we did, pre-sale, we did pre-orders, all these things that today e-commerce companies use and just like I think wake up doing 15 years ago, we were creating from the ground up.
Right. Okay, so how long are you at Estee Lauder?
5 years. I did 5 years there, and I
And your
was
main
just,
focus was marketing on that end, right?
the technical title was online strategy and planning.
Mm-hmm.
So each brand had their own marketers, and we had to sit and work with them about, okay, you're launching this new product. How's this show up? Obviously, it's on the homepage, but are we then doing an influencer campaign? Are we doing user-generated content campaigns, right? So we'd work with the brands because we were the central online hub, and we'd work with each brand and each
And
country
oversee
head.
everything in that end.
Yeah, you had to we tried. So here's actually the reason I left. The problem is you have a brand president, you have a country president, and you have an online president.
Are there too many cooks in the kitchen
Right.
in these big
It's a
corporations?
triple matrixed organization. Now, there's reasons why it works, right? So I'm not going to poo-poo all over it.
Right.
When you're that big, you can't have a country head doing something that the president of that brand doesn't know about because it could dilute the brand. One example is, there's a product called Even Better Clinical with Clinique that gets rid of dark spots. In the US, it's like, women who are aging, sunspots, et cetera. In China, they're cutesy. They love Labubus and things like that. So they had an ad of a chicken popping out of an egg that was very pristine,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like a cartoon chicken. That's not prestige beauty in the US. So if you have a country head that's making their own decisions without talking to the brand president who is the steward
gonna
of
be
the
an issue.
brand, yeah, stuff hits the fan because now the brand doesn't make sense to people. So there's reasons for it to exist, but when you're trying to move fast, it can be a little slow. Or you can even have 3 people making the decisions. You have to have process for those decisions to be made quickly and backed by data.
Got
And
it.
so what I got frustrated with was this triangulation, too slow, and everyone is fighting for that e-commerce dollar, which is the most profitable.
Was to make a decision, did you need like 30 people to sign off on it? Is that like how those corporations work? Like if you want to change something, you need to have so many people sign off on it. Does that delay? Is there a lot of delays in
Yes
getting
and
things?
yes and no,
Okay.
right? So I go back to like, it is slow,
Mhm.
but it's necessary because when you make a mistake in a small company that's got 5 million in revenue, you might lose 100,000. That hurts.
Mhm.
If you make a mistake in a company that's doing 5 billion or 50 billion in business,
Yeah.
it's tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars,
Yeah.
right? The mistakes hurt a lot more. And if you're publicly traded, the shareholders are your owners. They dump your stock. It's not a private company. It has massive effects on shareholder value,
100%.
the money the company even has to operate with. So it's a and they are slow, but there's a reason why sign-offs matter.
Mhm.
Like you've seen the things where like Gap changed its logo.
Oh, and
like,
then they
the
changed
public-
it back,
the
right?
public world, or a couple of companies from Old Navy to a couple of designer brands, they put something out and the public backlashed.
Yeah.
Maybe it should have gone through a couple levels of eyeballs, if not approvals for levels at least, but common sense for, did you think maybe that a monkey was maybe not the right image to put on this baby's shirt? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like that, just some little common sense. So I do think companies generally that are that big move too slow, but there's a way for a middle ground for it,
Okay.
right? The issue is more like political gain and politics, right? Like oftentimes if there's 10 decision makers, you meet with all 10 of them and get their buy-in and you horse trade a favor to get them to support you before
Oh,
you go in the
really?
room. And that's what drives me nuts about corporate. That's why I love boards now. I sit above all that,
Yeah.
right? That's why I love working with growth stage founders. They don't have that.
Mhm.
There is a way to make that faster and better, but checks and balances are good because we've seen what happens when people make wrong decisions.
Definitely. All right, and then
Yeah.
after Estee Lauder, when's the jump to Nike?
So I went from Estee Lauder to Elizabeth Arden, and the
Mhm.
quick explanation there is this was one place I could run all of digital. I didn't have to go to a brand president and a country president and an online president.
Mhm.
I owned everything digital, from e-commerce to social.
And how big was that company?
That was $1 billion in revenue.
Wow.
So it's still pretty big.
And what was the product you guys were selling?
Elizabeth Arden's another beauty company, but
Okay.
it's 100 years old.
Wow.
So everyone knew it was beauty and knew it was luxury beauty, but it was your grandmother's beauty.
Wow.
So I used
100-year-old beauty company. Huh?
116 years, I think, something like that. I'll have to check. So everyone knew it was a good brand, but it was old and stale. It wasn't cool anymore. So,
But you had 100% control of everything, marketing.
not marketing, because marketing was still doing the high level brand campaigns
Mhm.
and the product.
Uh-huh.
I was doing the go to market for anything digital. So
Wow.
whether it's e-commerce sales or even social media or even data, or we built apps at the counter for
And
people.
what year is this?
This is 2015
Okay.
to 2017. The Arden brand, the whole company is $1 billion. The Arden brand is $500 million, which is still pretty big. Aside from the media buying, though, my entire digital budget was $1.3 million for a $500 million revenue business.
What?
Tiny. It was a turnaround. I wanted to see if I could actually, like all the things I was saying out louder that no one was listening to, I wanted to see if I could actually prove it, if I could make it work. So I went to a turnaround brand and I said, let me run digital and I can grow this business. And if not, you can fire me. And it worked. I used really unexpected influencers for beauty. We had Chelsea Handler, Iris Apfel, the woman who was over 100 and had those really big glasses, a style icon. I saw Lizzo open for Lil Wayne before anyone who knew who she was. It was South by Southwest. I
Okay.
still have the video on my phone. And I was like, we need her. Like unexpected influencers that embodied modern beauty. They didn't let me do Lizzo, which, joke's on them, right?
Yeah.
But they did let me do Iris and Chelsea and this really disruptive message with how we went to market with very unexpected faces in beauty, because it's usually like these really monochromatically identical skinny influencers or models.
Yeah.
We did something different. We were provocative and challenging. It saved the company. We went from in a turnaround to 10 quarters of growth. We got bought by Revlon. I stayed for another 6 months. Then Nike came because I was speaking on stage at a conference. And Ben O'Reilly, the recruiter, he was in the audience. And the way I described what we
And
did,
who is Ben O'Reilly?
a recruiter for Nike.
Okay.
He saw me speak, and I talked about this. I kind of truncated the story, but this journey at Elizabeth Arden about true beauty, inner strength, confidence at a time where women just on social were just berated for not being skinny enough or pretty enough,
Mhm.
and us taking a stand and having a different message. He had said, that's the world I want my little girl to grow up in. So he reached out. They created this job for me, the global head of digital marketing, and I left my life in New York behind for Portland. That's how it happened.
I love it. So what's the first day in Portland like at Nike? And what is it like working with Nike?
I mean,
Walk us through it.
yeah, just like everything, it's a mix, right? I mean, go back to like a 6-year-old kid with a bowl haircut and glasses coming to the US. What do you know? You know, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Disney, Nike. Like that is the mothership. That is the dream job,
Mhm.
right? So in all ways, it was the most humbling and exciting decision of my life. But I went during a time of turmoil. The woman who hired me had just left. She was one of kind of the whistleblowers that then ended up highlighting some of the issues in the company. The president had just been let go. A bunch of senior executives got let go because of an employee survey that was run. It was a really tumultuous time.
Really?
So I show up. The woman who hired me, I'd never even met in person, was gone. I had no boss for a few months. It was a new role with no precedent. So I couldn't even go do what someone was doing before me because they created it for me. And candidly, it was a job that a lot of people who grew up in the company thought they deserved. So I had a really tough time. I also was a little tone deaf because I came into Elizabeth Arden during a turnaround and I just went in and I fixed things.
Cooked everything up. Yeah.
With a lot of places, whether it's a job, maybe even a school or a social club, which is kind of, the new thing abound, you kind of have to test the temperature and read the room, right?
Yeah.
And just because that had worked last time, I kind of, even Even Lauder, I didn't come in guns blazing, but I came in under like the head of online, the president who shielded me. He hired me and I was his right hand. So I'd come in and not having to edit or learn what wins look like at those places before I started doing my thing. And that was on me. So there's a little bit of the environment I was in was all Game of Thrones anyway. But then I came in a little tone deaf saying, you hired me to do this, let me do it. And they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You don't even understand how things are done here.
How important is it to be able to read a room?
It's almost everything.
Like walking into Nike, how important is it to
All
walk
of
into
it.
that
It's
room?
life.
Yeah.
You walk into a cocktail party, right? And you're like, the life of the party, slinging jokes. And like, suppose it's like a very elegant affair with like blue hairs that, don't take well to, internet slang and, things like that. Reading the room, I'm not saying you don't be who you are. You read the room and then you flex
Adapt.
you flex your edges to
You wear
fit
that
in.
mask.
Yeah. I wouldn't even say it's a mask.
Yeah.
It is, you wear that style that day.
Yeah.
Right? Because most of us, I think, have a lot of sides to our personality. Even if you take yourself on a good day and a bad day, you might be the same person, but the edges look different.
Totally.
So if you're going to a party and you don't really care what people think of you, who cares, right? Be you. But I do think if you're trying to convince people of things or build friendships or relationships, it behooves you to read the room and see where your pieces Lego together.
Definitely.
Right? And that's just being
having
kind
awareness.
and-
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will own it. As much as there were problems at Nike, like I did not read the room. I thought they wanted me to come in and do what they wanted. Now, to be fair, I think the people who hired me did. But it's 80,000 employees.
What was it like working at Nike?
It was awesome some days and it was hard some days. But that is the case with most things, right? Rarely do you love your job 100% of the time. If you like your job more than 50% of the time, you're lucky. But the things I struggled with was like, I didn't have a boss. I was trying to figure out how to do things there. Ultimately, it just wasn't a fit, right? It's not the way I like to move fast and break things, which is unusual for a big company. They've had decades of winning, doing things the way they did. How dare someone else come in and tell them what to do?
Yeah.
Right.
What's your advice to somebody that is in a position where they hate what they're doing 50, 60, 70% of the time, but like they're doing a pretty good job at it and they're early on in their career? What's your advice to them there?
What's the goal? Is it get a paycheck so then you can be stimulated elsewhere or,
I would say the
learn
goal,
skills?
let's just say the goal is to have like stack skills and credibility and then, and obviously make money.
There's something to be said about that. I've been talking to a lot of founders recently. Obviously, like the VC market has cratered a little bit in terms of valuations and how easy it is to raise money. It's hard now. And I think that was a level set that needed to happen. I think the valuations were out of control. A lot of founders have been asking me, what do I do? Do I get a job? Do I keep trying? I was like, it's okay to sometimes go get a job.
Yeah.
Right. We glamorize this like
Raising
hustle
money.
porn of fail 7 times. And, Mr. Beast did hundreds of videos before anyone ever saw his first one. No,
Yeah.
I get it. But those are the success stories.
Yeah.
That's what, 0.2%? 99.8% of those are failures. And so I'm not saying give up on a dream. I'm not saying don't work hard. But if you failed 7 times, maybe it's okay to get a job.
And then
That's
work on your next
psychological-
venture on the
Yeah,
side.
exactly. So the psychological safety, the financial security, learning new skill sets, building a network can all help you on your next venture. So if someone hates their day-to-day job, right? I ask, what's the goal? If your goal is to stay in that corporate lane, then if you hate that job, do you hate what you're doing, the function, or do you hate the environment you're doing it in, right? Because if you hate the function, go do something else because that's not going to get better. If you hate the environment that you're doing the work you love in, maybe you just need to be in a different place. And so it's okay to do that job as you kind of figure out the next transition to solving whatever the issue is. But if your goal is to go do something else, that's just medicine you're taking. That is the gym on days you don't want to go. That is the medicine you got to take to get to the next phase, right? So treat it like a job. Jobs are an exchange of value. I hate to also de-romanticize this too. People sometimes are like, I was so loyal. I can't believe they laid me off after 30 years. I'm like, this is an exchange of value.
Yeah.
It's okay to love your job and love what you do. But at the end of the day, they don't owe you anything.
Yeah.
They paid you for the work you did.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when it's over, whether you leave or they tell you your time's up.
Like they can't tell you not to leave.
Yeah.
That was an exchange of value. You got your value, etc. So treat it as I do a good job. I'm compensated fairly for it. And if you're not, that's a different conversation. But what do I want to do after this? What's my next job? What's my next, venture, etc. I think having a job can be great. I'm even looking at the market now. I love my freedom, but I'm like, wow, the economy is going to be really volatile for a couple of years. A lot of the last few projects I pitched didn't close. Everyone wants to stay in touch, but they're hoarding money because we don't know what tariffs will do. And tariffs may only affect a certain amount of companies, but they affect the people who work for the companies who spend the money, et cetera. Right. So it
Yeah.
trickles down to the whole economy. I'm like, do I go take a job and park for a couple of years? There's nothing wrong with asking those questions. It doesn't mean you're a sellout. It doesn't mean you failed. You're acquiring skills, financial and psychological stability, and a network that might help you do your next thing.
Yeah, I also think there's something to be said about like if you have income coming in at a job and then you're working on something on the side, you're probably going to do better work on your side project because you have peace of mind of like income coming in.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like if you're living a life through like no income, no income, no income, how can you possibly operate to like your maximum? You know what I mean? I think that people like it's either all in or nothing.
Right. And there's an and like most things. I know a founder, I'm not going to out him because I don't know if his day job knows he does
I
this,
have
but
questions, so I'm
oh,
pulling them
yeah.
up. I'm not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, go ahead. So there's a founder I know who has a day job that he manages very well and is able to do it in less than the amount of time that his boss probably thinks it takes.
yep.
He has a whole CPG startup that he runs, everything from customer service to procurement to supply chain. He runs off of his phone. He does everything. And his very well paying job bankrolls his side hustle. So he doesn't have to take VC money. And on top of that, he's getting a second master's online right now. He finds time in the day to do it. It all intersects, it feeds off of each other. But that day job gives him financial security. When that company exits, he'll be set anyway, but he takes all his liquidity from what he's earning in his day job, funds his startup, which hopefully be another exit. It's doable, right? He's not sitting there obsessing, oh my God, is this my like mission in life? Is this my purpose? No, I do a really good job. They give me a value. That then gives me liquidity to fund my own startup so I don't have to be beholden to anyone else.
100%. How important is momentum and like consistency in business?
Oh, that's such a good question. I would like to say it is, but I don't think that's a universal truth. It's back to adaptation. Because I wish I could say I'm consistent all the time, right? I don't actually think I'm employable anymore because I'm not consistent. There are days where I'll burn hard for 15 hours and be so motivated. I just crack something that I've been working on for months in half a day.
Mhm.
And then there's days where I'm like, you know what? My brain's not in it today. I could sit there and force myself to stare at a problem. It just doesn't feel it.
Yeah.
So is that consistency? Is that not? I don't know. I think those things are overrated. Momentum will never be constant, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not up to just you when you're in business. There's no business of one person that doesn't sell to anyone, right? Business is by nature a collaborative thing. If you're doing scientific research, maybe it's you and, the test tube. But in business, you have to sell things to people or buy things from people. So saying momentum's going to be constant is difficult because you don't get to control the situation.
Mhm.
And I think consistency in a longer term view is important. I don't think day-to-day consistency is. Some people have routines. They love getting up this time, do this, this, this. I am not built like that, right? There are times where my energy and my genius comes at the most random times, and I nurture that. And now I'm actually so much better at what I do because I'm not forcing it into a box. You just don't have the luxury of doing that earlier in your career. And maybe not even the skills either. I probably needed those decades of corporate to get to the way I problem solve now. So I think if you look at it as people ask about balance in life, and I was like, it's never balance, it's a seesaw. It goes up and down, but if over the longer term, whether it's a month or a quarter or a
It's trending
year,
upwards. Yeah.
exactly. And you got to give yourselves days to, if you burn really hard, you need recovery days. And those recovery days actually set you up for better productive days later. So if you take a marathon runner, right? They run 26 miles. They don't run another race for another month or two. That's the amount of effort toll it takes on the body. You have recovery days, you have rest days, and you start running and jogging.
Like
And
working blocks, right?
yeah, we expect people in business to run marathons
All day.
10
every day.
hours a day,
Yeah.
every day. Right? You go into the meeting and you have to be on
Go,
your
go,
A game.
go,
What
go,
is
go,
that?
go, go.
Right?
Yeah.
No wonder we burn out. No wonder we are not as sharp and don't make as good of decisions. No wonder we're cranky to our team.
Mhm.
Right? So I don't know what everyone's individual mix is. I think finding your natural rhythm is really important. But I think also employers have to give a little grace for how people work their best. Focus on results, not FaceTime. Now, you don't want somebody gone from the office for 3 days and disappear. But I used to be like, if somebody's like, hey, I'm going to take a long lunch. I really need to know this problem. I'm like,
Do it.
talk to me tomorrow.
Yeah.
Go do your thing. And they will come back better. You know, I
Definitely.
used Myers-Briggs and, you know, a lot of people say it's outdated. It doesn't matter. Use a framework to understand people, how they like to work and how they show up as their best self.
And figure out a way to manage them around that.
Exactly. Like extroverts and introverts, right? It's where you get your energy from. I'm a high extrovert. I love being in podcasts, being in rooms with people. I love war rooms and whiteboarding. To an introvert who does their best thinking in the shower or on a long run, war rooms are a nightmare.
Yeah.
So what I would do is kick off a project. We'd all be in the room for an hour, laying out the scope, the deadlines, the tasks, how they all intersect. And then I'm like, you can sit in the room for the rest of the day. I'll be working here. Feel free to come in and out or go do your thing. Next touch base 10 a.m. tomorrow here.
Mhm.
So then people work the best the way they do. You get their best work and they're happier.
When you're managing people at this level, at like the Nikes, the Estee Lauders, and these companies, how important is it to pick and choose your battles with the people you're managing?
And I usually actually give advice on employees and how they pick and choose their battles. In terms of managers, it depends on how you judge or rate people, right? I'm output and impact focused and I'm culture focused. So if those two things are at risk, those are the battles I pick, right?
Mhm.
Um, how someone dresses, unless it's inappropriate, it's not
It's not worth it.
accretive to that. It's not even that it's not like as a manager, you have to be really clear on your expectations and what matters, right? So instead of what battles to pick, if you do a good job of delineating this is our goal and this is how we work, this is our culture and what we value. If you're really clear in setting those expectations, then it's decided for you what battles you pick. Right? Because even the smallest infraction against one of those things that you find really important is worth addressing before it gets too big. Something that might be like, you know, I did have someone on the team who was just like really verbose and just like socially always like pulled people away from their work. And
Distracting.
yeah. So at some point you're like, well, you know, it's not diluting
Mm.
the other things. That's just her style. And like a lot of people had commented to me. But then when it started eating into people's productive work time, where she stopped by too many times and was interrupting, then it's a thing, you know?
Definitely.
So yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the manager. I am very organized and I'd like to think that I'm much better at it now, but I probably was a micromanager my first job out of like the first, I do remember this. I was at Kirsch, which is a brand at Level or Kirsch at Newell Rubbermaid. And I went from managing no people to like 6 people to a dozen people. So I wanted everyone to do things my way because I knew it worked. Look,
Mhm.
like I am a people manager, 2-3 years out of college. Like I'm doing it right. So
Yeah.
let me help you figure out
Yeah.
how to do it right. So everyone had to do the things the way I did. And it was funny. I remember like I was chastising someone for having spelling mistakes in an email because I found that really valuable. And then in the same email, I misspelled our president's name because I actually just started the company and it wasn't like I made a mistake. I just thought it was spelled differently.
Yeah.
So the irony of me chastising someone for an imperfect email when I
Karma.
sent an imperfect email was
Yeah.
really funny. And that was like one of the first times I'm like, okay, wait, maybe this isn't so important. So if you work in law and spelling mistakes do matter in a contract,
Yeah.
you pick that battle. If you work in marketing and it's an internal email trying to set up a meeting,
It's not that deep.
it's still a mistake in an email, but you maybe shouldn't bet. So what are the goals and the culture expectations that you set for your team? And you have to live not only by them yourself, you have to hold people accountable for those things. But the stuff that you say is not important, even if it grates on your nerves, because that's not how you do things, you got to let people be.
Yeah. What's more important to you, the person or the resume when interviewing somebody?
Oh, the person.
So you
The
sit
resume
down.
helps.
You sit down for an interview.
Yep.
Walk us through what you're looking for, and not specifics to like the weeds of whatever they're
No,
applying
of course. I'll even give you a real example. So when I was taking this team on at Elizabeth Arden, I had a couple people that came with the team and got to hire a few more, which was very lucky because we needed a skill set. Again, remember, this is $1 billion company and my budget is like $1 million. It's small. So I needed to build out a very specific skill set that didn't actually exist. It was called e-tail. So it was selling to the Bloomingdale's.com team, not the Bloomingdale's team, the .com team at our retailers.
for.
And now we call it retailer.com or e-tail, but it wasn't a thing back then. I'm like, wow, this is such a weird skill set that is not something I can even search for. It is somebody who has worked with retailers but has a digital mindset,
Mhm.
is digitally native. So it forced me to not look at a resume. it looked at a resume enough that I'm like, if you worked with retail, I need you to know how to sell to big
Yeah,
companies.
you have to have, yeah,
Like, you can't be completely green at it. But the rest of it was curiosity, um, adaptability, and comfort with ambiguity and figuring things out.
yeah.
So I met someone named Lisa Sheps who came from selling to Casabella and bunch of different, not even in beauty, but the way she created a model around what this role and this function could be was the reason I bet on her. She didn't make sense. She didn't come from beauty. She didn't have the pedigree, etc. She crushed it for me.
Was it because she could solve problems?
I didn't even know that at the time.
Okay.
It was how she thought about the problem. It's like, when you interview at consulting firms, right? They give you these case studies and, people practice and practice and practice. And I loved them. And in a weird way, it actually is a good barometer for a consulting firm because the company gives you a problem and you have to figure out how to structure it. And you don't have time to boil the ocean and do academic research. You have to 80-20 it. 20% of the information gives you 80% of the answer. You go. So when I interview someone, I look for curiosity because the world's shifting under our feet. So if you're not curious, you're just going to be left behind.
Mm.
It's also like an ability to think through the problem, even if it's not the way I would do it or an answer I would agree with. I need to see you can take a problem and figure out how to structure it and go after the answer, even if it's just getting to an answer, but more importantly, trying to figure out how to even get to an answer. I want to see how you think. And then I want to see, like, is this somebody that would be fun to work with? Because it sucks going to work with people you fight with.
Doesn't it?
It doesn't mean they have to be the same as you, but can you coexist with this person?
You gotta have, there's gotta be flexibility, and it can't be painful. Like every
Yeah.
conversation can't be a burden. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's not about picking people who are just like you. I think that's dangerous. But is this something that the team would like? Is this something that would work with the team,
Mhm.
with me and my management style, which
Mhm.
tends to be very open? So she was an outlier. She crushed it for me. In fact, when I left Arden, which got bought by Revlon, we went to Revlon. I went to Nike. She picked up and followed me.
Really?
That is the bond we built. And so her resume was good enough in that it had some of the skills I needed, but it was her curiosity, her passion. And now she's continued to excel. I think she runs e-com or digital for all of the luxury brands at L'Oreal. I mean,
How important is it having relationships in these large corporations to
Everything.
get a job? So let's just
oh,
say
I see what you're saying.
let's just
Not
say
within it to get a job.
yeah, let's just say you're a student at a normal college studying economics or whatever,
Mhm.
and you know people. Like, how important is it to build relationships in the web of where you want to work prior to getting that job?
I'm going to tell you the honest truth. I mean, there's certain companies that only recruit at certain schools. And if you don't or if you don't go to those schools, you don't get an interview. That is the reality of it. And it's not malicious. Like if you're a Goldman, right? And I'm not shitting on them, but like it's any big company. If you go to a handful of schools, you're going to get not only really good candidates that you don't have to go outside for, you're already in the top pool of candidates, you're also getting training in a way that you expect. So a lot of these companies, whether it's Lauder or Goldman, will hire from a handful of schools that they know they're going to get a certain amount of, a decent level of quality, and there's no shortage of good candidates. You don't have to go to 20 more schools because these handfuls of schools
We'll feed you
give
what
you
you
good
need.
candidates.
Yeah.
Like that's just more efficient. Why would you make yourself less efficient?
Yeah.
Now, that being said, Lauder had a great program. They always hired from certain schools around the city because of the founders and the founding families' different attachments to things. A lot of my best people, like Catherine McCready's was another one. She was my intern over at Lauder and was amazing. And I was kind of like, you are one of the best people that I've ever worked with. Like, why that school? You could have gone to an Ivy League, right? Opportunity is not talent. Talent's distributed widely and opportunity is not. So you're going to find diamonds in the rough that are actually much better, but you have to go do the work to find them. So from the flip side, when I'm talking to people who are trying to work at these companies, these companies are not coming to your campus. It's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
But then now you have to go build the relationships. It was a lot harder before the internet, and you could research and have LinkedIn and
It's
have
crazy.
DMs.
Can
you imagine what you had to do before the
to
era
get this
of
interview
social?
set up? Yeah, imagine. Yeah,
Right? It's actually really easy. When someone sends me a really thoughtfully written email, I got this the other day. Hey, Swan, I've been following your career. I'm so impressed at this, this, and this. And they dug deep. They didn't look at my title or what I did. They're like, I was so impressed that you went from corporate America to being an influencer. That's really unusual. I would love to blah, blah, blah. I will read that and I will engage in a conversation,
Mhm.
right? Just like that's not any different than a sales cycle. If you get a cold email that just like, buy this product versus, hey, I noticed you run podcasts. We have a really cool tool that I noticed in a couple of your podcasts, you must have been manually editing this part. Our AI tool can actually clip that time in half. Can we give you a free demo? You're much more likely to, whoa, they watched mine.
They're
And they saw,
solving a problem for me now. They have value. Let's chat.
yeah, but that's just life. If you want to get things done in a world that's based on relationships, you have to try to build those relationships, not in an annoying way or an aggravating way or an arrogant way, but give first. I've had people say like, hey, I saw this article and I know you're working on, something like this. You might like it. I'm much more willing to engage in that. Build a relationship, build a rapport, try to give first before you ask. Because I think now, because we're also focused on volume and scale, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste.
Definitely.
Quality over quantity.
Do some homework.
Yeah.
With everything you're doing, I want you to touch on like all of the influencing side, what you've done on Clubhouse, and how you built. How many followers do you have on that?
It was 3.7 million.
3.7 million. And then, I want you to just share a little bit of the background there and how you got into all that.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of a wild ride. It wasn't intentional.
And building influencer brands. I want to hear like all the weeds of that.
Influencer has become such a dirty word. Back in the day, influence was such a powerful word. And now because of the way we've monetized on social or like the stereotypes, right? It's become a dirty word. It's having influence, right? It's being trusted and having enough of a platform that you can reach people and they believe you. Like it's not just reaching people, it's having trust that they listen. And sometimes you could argue, like, if they don't trust you, it becomes a meme and you're still getting attention. But long term, I don't think that's like positive, right? That's not value creation. I think influencer culture started in certain industries where the companies were distrusted, right? It started a lot, for example, in beauty. You have these awesome beauty companies putting out awesome products, but the influencers made us feel fat and ugly, right? Not intentionally. We can't help but compare. That's human condition. And so when you have influencers that are real and showing you how things work or what they look without makeup, you're like, wait, I feel so much better about myself. I don't feel so alone. That's the duality of influencer culture, right? It might be things we aspire to, but we kind of hate, but there's a piece of us that wants to be included and wants to belong. That's the tribal mindset of human condition. So I had worked with influencers in a way that it was just like a different media outlet for me, right? You can buy banner ads. People can see you. You can be on a billboard, right? But influencer marketing was just a different way to reach people. And it was much more real. It was authentic mostly. And it was a way for a different person to tell our story. So one of the first things, I think I was one of the first to do this, we used to pay influencers X dollars to promote us. I started saying, well, I'll give you a third of what we were going to pay you, but I'll give you X cents on every product that sells so you could actually make 3X that
Like
amount.
having a royalty on whatever item it was.
Yeah. People didn't do that. They looked at it as a straight up media buy. I'm like, they're not a media buy. They're a person who is access to eyeballs, but it's their story, not ours.
And they're going to be more incentive to move more units if they're getting skin in the game.
Exactly. So we used to debate. It's like, well, how long is this video going to be? Well, I'm not going to do more than a 30-second video. Well, no. But we got away from nickel and diming how many posts. You post as many times as you need.
You get royalties.
To get to the results that you want.
That's like the second question they propose on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
It's either like X equity and then X royalties.
Right. You both have
They
skin
all
in the
want
game and you win together.
Yeah.
It was the most, but we didn't think of media buying like that. I was also one of the first to do media buying like that. So I had a media agency. They were like, you pay us this much, we'll buy you this much media. I'm like, but how do I know if it works? Oh no, just trust us. We have like run the numbers. I'm like, cool. Why don't I pay you this much less? This much of your fee, your success fee is at risk. If you hit the numbers, I'll give you twice that amount because we'll both have earned money.
You're both winning.
If you miss the goals, why would I pay you your fee?
100%.
So I started doing that a long time ago. I mean, with that was probably 2015 at Arden.
Okay.
With both influencers and my media. So I knew how powerful influencers could be, but I was always on the backside. My socials were private, right? I looked at them as like a media channel for marketing brands.
Well, yeah. So when did you step into like building your personal brand and putting yourself out there?
I never even thought about it like that.
And
That's my point. Like I used it as a media tool.
Your own page and your own.
No. I was looking at the entire influencer industry as a marketing tool for brands. I wasn't thinking about it as something I would even do because my social was private. And I'd been speaking on stages at these companies and I guess building my brand in that sense. But I also just like sharing case studies and helping people figure things out. In 2020, the world collapsed, right? I left Nike in August of 2019. Um, it was a good run. I was really humbled by some of the like the Dream Crazy campaign that won Emmys with Colin Kaepernick. I was there during that.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd done some great work, but ultimately it wasn't the place for me. It wasn't the way I like to collaborate and win. So I left. But when you leave the job that's supposed to be your dream job, you're just paralyzed with fear. What if I make the wrong next decision?
Right.
So for those 4 months, I had to divorce my identity and self worth from corporate America, from my achievements, both academic and professional. And when you're sitting there staring at the mirror, you figure out really quickly when you don't have access who your
Yeah.
real friends are. A lot of people who wanted that job were like, see, she couldn't cut it. So, it was a dark time. I had to look inward and like, what brings me joy? It's helping people. It's giving people opportunity. I mean, I'm an immigrant kid. My parents didn't finish middle school. We had to clip coupons to afford groceries when I was a kid. Look where I am. How do I create more opportunities for more people? Not just because it's the right thing to do, but I think actually that creates more value in our society for business, more
Mhm.
productive GDP output for all of us. So when I found that kind of a North Star, then pandemic hits. I'm with my family in Boston. I'm really bored because, we're all locked inside for a
Boston's
year.
not that boring. Come on.
Pandemic
I'm only
Boston.
kidding. I'm only kidding.
Pandemic.
Yeah,
I don't
pandemic
care
Boston.
I don't care if you get to live in
Pandemic-
Paris or the middle of New
Yeah.
York City.
Anywhere where you were in the pandemic.
Pandemic,
is bad.
actually, like the better the city, the worse the pandemic
Yep.
felt, right? Because you couldn't
That's
go
why
outside.
I left LA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting at my parents' and May of 2020, I'm so bored. My childhood best friend, Parl Singh, she's a VC and she's like, you know what? Try this thing. Like, download this app. You'll probably have fun. She's kind of an introvert. She's very cerebral, but she's like, I think you'll like this thing called Clubhouse. Go talk to people. So in May in 2020, I signed up. And that early, there was no followers, there was no rooms and followers. It was just a bunch of people in a voice only room talking. It's maybe 30 people on a night. During the day, it was empty. You would open the app, it'd be empty because people would be on their remote jobs. But I just felt connected, right? I wasn't so lonely. We weren't so scared. I ran into some old friends, met a lot of new friends. But a lot of the early users on Clubhouse were A16 portfolio companies. And a lot of them were trying to figure out, go
Really?
back to paid sampling, online sales, ROAS, all the things that I did at Lauder, they were trying to figure out.
Did
So I was like,
A16 back Clubhouse?
yeah, they were
Oh.
the big, multiple rounds,
Okay.
the biggest, not only did they back them, they brought a lot of the early users that made it such a cool place to hang out. They were the ones who invited
Yeah,
their
because they have
Rolodex.
so many tech companies under them.
Yeah, so a combination of all their portfolio companies coming on, using it nonstop, but also all of their Rolodex relationships, right? In the early days, you'd have like Van Jones and all these great people that they called and said, hey, come on this Clubhouse thing, right? Because social is only as good as the people on it, right? Whether it's people you want to follow or your friends.
Mhm.
So I just started giving them advice. All the stuff I did early at Lauder, paid sampling, pre-sales. They're like, oh, that's genius.
Mhm.
So I developed a reputation for helping people, and my pedigree certainly helped, right? Because you click on the bio and you're like, oh, she's worked
done
for some
this.
legit companies and went to some legit schools. You can accidentally get into a school or get a good job once. You don't do it over and over the
Yeah,
course
yeah.
of a career. You might be doing a couple things right.
Yeah.
So I just spent a lot of time on there helping people. And then I think it was 7 months in, someone texted me a screenshot and they're like, you hit 100,000 followers. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, because you don't see followers the way, there's no likes on there. It's just the size of a room, but sometimes the room's just good and everyone's hanging out. So that made me realize maybe there's something here. And so the next 5 months, I leaned in a little more. And then, starting from May 2020, a year later, I went from 100,000 7 months in to 3.5 million a year in. It just hockey sticked. Because as people came in, people saw big rooms, they listen, they follow, and the rest is history.
And then from it there, is that kind of like the bridge into like building your personal brand
Yeah.
and speaking on these stages?
You kind of have to at that point, right? Like, what do you stand for? And what I always say is your personal brand, you should figure out what it is, but you shouldn't have to build it. It's who
should,
you are.
Yeah, it should come natural. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're trying
If
to
you're
be
doing the
someone-
things you like to do,
Exactly. If you're trying so hard to manufacture what
yeah,
your
it's
brand
not
is,
authentic.
it's exhausting too. Forget that it's not authentic and people can see through it. It's exhausting to be someone else. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So be who you are. And so that made me at least be conscious of like what I stood for, because it's not just how I show up. It's when you're running a room, if you're the one running the room, moderating it, how do you then kind of, I don't want to say police, but ensure that the environments and communities you set up live by the North Star that you say you live by too. Because Clubhouse is really special in that little corner of the internet because it was a really friendly and welcoming place in a way that social is generally not talked about,
Mhm.
right? We didn't talk over each other, you didn't interrupt, etc. Like it was really an amazing run for a couple years.
Yeah. So how important have the relationships you've built over time in like the speaking circuit and being at these events and stuff, how important are those for you? For somebody that's looking to connect with more people that feels trapped, getting out there, going to the events. Like you told me you're going to an event after
Yeah.
this.
Um, it's hard if you're an introvert to force yourself to do those things. It's really easy for me because I love people.
Yeah.
Every new person I meet, like you reached out, I'm like, wait, he looks dope. I would be honored to be on his podcast. Didn't look at where it's distributed, didn't look at the numbers. The only thing I asked is who's your audience so I can make sure the things I kind of ramble
Yeah.
about are useful to them. I love people. I'm innately curious and like to
Yeah.
connect. For people who don't like to do it as much, depending on what you want out of it, it's important because, again, like I said, business is never a one person thing. You still have to buy and sell from other people,
Mhm.
right? Now, if you're trying to build an audience, that's a whole different thing. You're trying to build a product that is based on people, right? But if you're just trying to network, and that's also gotten somehow to be a dirty word, I'm like, networking is making friends and helping each other.
Yeah.
Right? How did that be? Now, people who are inauthentic or very transactional, maybe that's kind of a negative, but sometimes transactions work. That's what business is, right? It's the value exchange. You work for
Yep.
an employer, they pay you, right? So I do think in today's society, we've gotten so online, sometimes interpersonal relationships and experiences are really important. We could have done this on remotely
Yeah,
from
it
our
would have been,
homes.
yeah, but it wouldn't have been the same.
Exactly. You flew here and I'm like, wow, this really matters to him. He shows up. Of course I'm going to show up for
Yeah.
this now, right? So I think those in-person moments build deeper bonds and then they open up a lot more doors. But I don't think everyone needs an audience if it's really uncomfortable for you.
Yeah.
It just depends on what you want to do. If your product is a B2B software product, you need to be in the rooms of decision makers. You don't need an audience. You
Yeah.
could also just post really interesting thought leadership on LinkedIn and try to target people in those decision making seats. But who cares how many followers you have,
Exactly.
right? I would rather have a really good podcast with a targeted audience that is super loyal than a massive one
That doesn't
that,
even listen.
yeah,
Yeah, it listens once in a while.
exactly.
So what are you most excited about now and what's next?
I need to figure out what I want to do in this phase in life. That's why, on one hand, I think it's absurd we ask kids what they want to do when they grow up because I still have no idea. But there's elements of things that will always be a part of our curiosity. I'm candidly thinking through, okay, if the economy is a little volatile, do I go in house? And to be candid, I was approached with an offer that I wouldn't have even thought of.
Yeah.
But I'm like, wait, what? So I always tell people even if you love what you're doing, take the call because you never know what might come your way and
Yeah.
how you could shape it into something that is really interesting. Um, Gary Vee's an old friend, and I was telling him, do I take a job? And he's like, are you doing it just for the money? And I was like, yes. He's like, don't take a job.
Yeah.
But wait, this one could be interesting. I'm not taking a job. Would I take this job? Right. And that might mean I lose the freedom to sleep in, to work the 15-hour day and then disappear for 2 days like I do now. So you give some things up. But wait, this is an engine that I kind of
That you're
Lego
excited about.
into.
Yeah.
Like I kind of Lego into their culture and what they want to do. And it's stuff I love doing. The CEO pitched me by saying, it is literally what you're doing today, just under our banner. I'm like,
Mhm.
wait, that's awesome. Like teaching people things and building case studies and translating tech and finding solutions. I just get to do that and do, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that. It's funny, I'm gonna ping you later. I was thinking of launching a podcast
Yeah.
and people like Gary, et cetera, are like, finally, how long did you wait to do this? Because that's such a natural extension of Clubhouse. But I'd been thinking about it wrong. I was thinking like, oh, it has to generate revenue, and it's not going to generate revenue unless it's in the top 10. It's
It's
not.
I mean, I'll say this, since starting this podcast, it's been the best tool to just connect with people that I
Yes.
find interesting. And I can just go to my phone, message people that I find interesting, and majority of the people that I'm reaching out to are down to come on.
Yeah.
And the hard part is just coordinating the time and stuff. But
Right.
the tool, like, and I approach this with like, I enjoy doing it. Like I genuinely enjoy every episode I've done and the whole process of it. But the people that I'm able to meet and sit down with and just expand the web of
Yeah.
people I know is fun. And it's not everything needs to be about the money. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And like the web of people I'm meeting is just like all of that fruit is just like expanding. And I'm like, I met Chris, and speaking of podcasts, like this is the guy in New York because when I'm in New York, I come here, it's so smooth. But The hardest part for me was getting it started and like figuring out. And then now that I'm doing it, it's been the best little side thing I've ever done.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little late to the game. And as accomplished or smart as people think I am, how did I not get that? It is not about revenue. It's about relationships, about lead gen for speaking.
And those will come. Yeah. The revenue will come.
I
Yeah.
preach this and I couldn't get into my own, which is also why you need people around you to hold up a mirror, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, we complain about dating to our friends. We give everyone great advice. We just can't do it for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And so, by the way, Chris, I'm calling you because I need to do a podcast, but
Yeah.
I'm finally doing it now. And it's about being in service to the community the way I was in Clubhouse. It wasn't about revenue generating. And it took me years to get my head around that because I've been so ingrained in productivity, output, value.
Yeah. Everything's measured on output. And I'm like, there can be other ways to measure output
100%.
rather than just dollars.
Exactly.
And I'm looking at this podcast, like this is going to be something I want to do forever so that I can sit down and learn from all these people. Like you're telling me I can start something and just sit down with whoever I want and hear their stories. And a lot of them are down to come on. That's like, I couldn't imagine not doing that.
Right.
And then another reason I got into it, because I was always at these things where I'm like, oh, I'm with them, or I was with her and him or whatever. I'm like, I need to figure out a tool to like build something around these experiences that I'm having and leverage having a show to share their stories and be the platform that they get to share it on. But it's exciting
build
stuff.
an AI agent around the conversations you're having. So, because you asked what's next, I sit on 2 public company boards. It's me and a bunch of old white dudes, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get on a 3rd one, and I love that part of life because you're at the highest levels of strategy, like 3D chess. So I've got that, which is one end of it. Debating, am I taking a job? I'd still probably do a podcast after, regardless. But there's this other thing that might be interesting for you. So I was going to launch this masterclass. It's like a 6-week boot camp on marketing and strategy because 80% of what I consult on is the same formulas over and over. I'm like, well, my consulting to tie me up for a few months is expensive, and a lot of people can't afford that. What if I did a class of 15 or 20 people? And then back to you, how you went through college or how MBA programs are set up. They're doing work in groups. They're actually doing the playbook for their business or their side hustle. And by the end of it, they literally have what I would have produced in consulting over 3 months. But
and you
I taught
created
them how
the
to do
ecosystem.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
I taught them how to fish. So I was going to launch this. And now I'm just like, is that obsolete? Can people just, even if it's not as good, just keep asking ChatGPT the things they used to ask me? I know it's not as good because I test it. It even knows me and it still doesn't spit back what I would answer something as. So I don't think it's only 50% of the way there. But I'm like, do I even do this masterclass? Or do I try to build an AI agent that's a brand brain? How do I teach this agent everything I've done in my career with brand and digital and marketing and competitive dynamics and go to market? Like, can I ingest everything I know into an agent and teach it enough that instead of taking my masterclass for 6 weeks, can people then just go use my brand brain? I don't know. So that's something I'm thinking about. So there's a lot swirling, right? I mean, I love the boards, add a board, want to do more speaking, but like, do I take a job or do I try to build this thing? And it's okay to have those decisions and question things, but to not think about the newest technology that's at all of our disposal at our fingertips to supercharge your business is a miss.
It's a total miss. I think it's way bigger than the internet.
Yeah.
Way bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so excited about it because we're in manufacturing and stuff, and like all these data centers need shelves.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be a part of the AI boom.
Yeah.
I mean, I might not be writing the code, but I want to get a piece of it.
But I would even say, okay, so data centers need shelves, right? What about robotics in your manufacturing? What about robotics in data centers? How do you have shelves that robots can move in between, that are modular, that slide, that transport, right? What is the new generation of shelf? That moves, and maybe in some way by designing a different kind of shelf, you influence the robotics in the industry or influence data flow. What if shelves are then power enabled inside of them?
Yeah.
Right. There's
so many opportunities. And I think that like, there's like back to like having this podcast, I don't have this conversation with you or get these ideas if I don't have this podcast.
Yeah. Kudos to you. You're ahead of me. Like, it's been 5 years.
No, your podcast is coming soon, right? Chris is going to hold her accountable. He's got the fire studio set up.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, no, it's great stuff. So I have some speed round questions.
Yeah,
I'm going to fire your way. This is a speed round. It's dinner with this or that person. Okay. Oprah or Beyonce?
Oprah.
Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos?
Elon, because I have no idea what's going to come out of his mouth.
Okay.
Bezos is a little more predictable.
Rihanna or Kim Kardashian?
Rihanna.
Warren Buffett or Mark Cuban?
That's unfair because I sort of know Mark, but so I'm going to say Warren.
Steve Jobs or Bill Gates?
Jobs.
Jay-Z or Drake?
Oh, Drake, because I just got to ask about this war with Kendrick and how it's making him
Okay.
feel.
Okay.
Jay-Z is brilliant. I mean, to tap into his brain, but to have a closer conversation with Drake and like the war that's been happening is just hilarious. I mean, the memes that have come out of that,
Yep.
I got to ask how that feels to his heart, right?
Yeah,
Because
no, I
expose
get
yourself
it.
by being out
I
there.
get it. Kris Jenner or Martha Stewart?
Martha. These are tough. I want to meet all of them.
Yeah.
Can you get them on my podcast, please?
Yeah, we'll work it out. We'll work it out. The Rock or Kevin Hart?
The Rock.
Anna Wintour, Coco Chanel?
Oh, Coco.
Phil Knight or Michael Jordan?
Jordan.
All right. This or that. Ready for this one? Book or podcast?
Pod. All day.
Beach or ski trip?
Both. Cheated, sorry.
Cheat. You can't cheat. You got to pick one. But are you a skier?
Sort of. I'd say like I'm an advanced intermediate and then I tore my ACL.
But you
So-
love being on the mountain.
What I would say is that before I tore my ACL and had blah, 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 this like when you hit that run perfectly and you feel the speed,
It's nothing better.
ski. Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm just not great at it.
That's all right. And there's nothing better than being like at a ski mountain by the fire. You know what I mean?
I love fireplaces. Hammocks and fireplaces, like, yeah, all day.
Chris is actually getting a fireplace put in.
Okay, well, I'll just move right in here.
All right. Resort or villa? Like, would you rather stay at a nice hotel or have your own villa?
Resort.
But
I like room service.
I do love a
I
hotel,
like
though.
room service. I like when I come back and my bed is made for me.
Mhm.
How about a villa in a resort?
That's fair. That's fine. Maldives or St. Bart's?
Oh, Maldives. I'm kind of over the party scene of a lot of the.
Have you been to St. I've never been to St. Bart's. Have you been there?
Yeah, I there's something be fun about like summer party cities,
Yeah.
but they start kind of looking the same.
Yeah.
Maldives is in a way kind of like Seychelles, very remote, kind of hard to get to. And we're so plugged in all the time. There's something really special about being in a beautiful place and just
Being
being
detached. Yeah.
right? Like I don't need another day club beach party.
another bottle service going
Right, because
around
it's
the
too
corner.
high. They're all fun. They all start looking the same, and I'm not poo-pooing it. If you want to fly me on a private jet and go to a beach party,
Yeah.
great.
Right.
But to go somewhere that's relatively untouched, like I went to Antarctica back in I think it was like 2012.
How was that?
Unreal. And
How long
now-
did it take you to get there?
A long time. I took 2 months and I went
Fucking
all through
2
South
months.
America. I went through Patagonia and Argentina and Chile. I was riding horses. I went overland. I hiked Perito Moreno Glacier. Like I spent 2 months really just like kind of spending time around
Yeah, you've
nature.
traveled everywhere, huh?
And then I think I'm at 93 countries, but Antarctica was so untouched and so beautiful. Like it's rare you go somewhere that maybe like a few thousand people have ever gone.
Fresh air down there?
Fresh air. The animals aren't really afraid of humans because we've
Yeah.
never been predatory. So a penguin will waddle up to you. And then when you think back to the early explorers, like
Mhm.
Shackleton and his story and the resilience they had to survive, like you just think back to sometimes like who had the balls to leave England
Yeah,
or
it's
Europe
crazy.
and
You
sail
fuck
for
that.
months across the world without
Do you
without
imagine
knowing
getting
that
on
the
a
world
boat
is
across the
flat?
country?
Like the world is flat. You
Dude.
might fall off the edge of the earth.
Yeah.
That was a different breed of people.
They just kept pushing. They kept it pushing.
Without knowing literally if they would fall off the edge of the earth, or who's the first one who's like, let's eat a pineapple, or let's eat an artichoke. Right?
Yeah.
Like, who thought that this would be so?
I know, they're wild.
That era, honestly, yeah.
This brings me to my next one.
Yeah.
Cruise or safari? And when I say cruise, I don't mean a cruise ship. I mean like a yacht, like a nice yacht off the coast of like Greece or a safari.
I mean, there's no wrong answers in this, but safari. I've done a few. I actually,
I love a safari,
I went
but
to
I
the-
love a yacht too. You know
yeah,
what I
right?
mean? Yeah.
Why can't I have both?
Yeah.
But I did see the Great Migration across the Masai Mara in
Mhm.
Kenya one year when all the animals crossed the plains, and
No
it was
way.
the most unbelievable thing I'd ever seen. So safari all day.
Safaris are great. All right. Airport. What was it? Private jet or private yacht? You get one. You only get one here. You got to make a
Private
decision
jet.
quick.
Private jet because I don't have a lot of free time. I fill my life with things I love. And so I'm all about efficiency. I live where it's convenient. I don't like to waste time going in circles. And the private jet, as much as it might create a bigger hole in the ozone, one of my fellow board members said, gone are the days of the corporate private jets. But he's like, if I needed to be in Asia and then in the next day in Brazil and then back in the US the next day, that jet allowed me to do all those things. You can't do that commercially so much anymore.
No.
So the value of your time,
I'm with you.
you know?
I'd be all over the place.
Yeah, I don't need a fancy jet, but if you can take me from A to B without the airport delays, without the cattle
The
lines,
headaches, yeah.
get me there so I can do my best work or live my best life all day.
I'm with you. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Look forward. I spent a lot of time. There was a few years ago, there was this crypto project that would have paid me $500,000 for 4 months of work. And I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't think they're going to be successful. They're really good people. It's definitely not a scam, but they just don't have the chops to win. They're not going to beat OpenSea.
Yeah.
And I didn't take it. And a lot of my peers did. And I'm like, God, $500,000 in 4 months to do some promo, guys. Yeah. And I still look back, I should have taken it. Or for someone in corporate because people ask me, like, why do people in corporate why are they not innovative? Why don't they take risks? It's not set up to reward risk or innovation. It's set up to deliver expected numbers to Wall Street and not make big mistakes where you fail. So you're not incentivized to swing for a home run. You want a single or a double, so you're marginally better than your coworkers, so you get promoted. Yeah. My whole life, whether it was academia and Asian tiger parents or corporate world, was to do as well as you could in your lane and, not mess up. So if you're an entrepreneur, you can mess up 99 times. You just need to win once. If you're in corporate, you fail once or twice, you're fired.
Right.
So I spend a lot of time replaying, oh, I should have said that. I should have taken that deal. I should have walked away earlier, right? It's a great thing to reflect and learn. It's a really bad thing to sit and wallow.
Yeah.
And I still think about that deal I should have taken or that investment I should have made or the one I shouldn't have. Move forward, right? Yeah. You spend all your energy reliving the past. You don't even see what's in the future.
Yeah, you got to keep it pushing.
Yeah, that's very present for me right now.
Awesome. Well, Swan, I really appreciate you coming on the pod. Where can everybody find you?
My socials are Swan Sit, SWANSIT, as is my website. And I love hearing from people, so reach out. Especially, like I said, if you guys have something to say in a DM, I will respond. I love hearing from people.
Awesome. This is great. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.